thank you for being here, Dr. Shaver. So, what really would be the ideal for a normal delivery recovery period, where we would provide adequate, I know we're extending this, we were to provide adequate bonding between the mother and the child. I know that in Canada it's a year. They actually provide a year for mothers.
In Japan, well, just to give
Parents actually.
in Japan, yeah. I mean, perfect example, in Japan, for example, they keep mom in the hospital for a week.
Mhm.
And the reason to do that is because they want to make sure the mom knows how to bathe the child, know how to respond, make sure to watch for postpartum blues and depression. In the United States, we keep mom for 24 hours. And I think that's kind of quick. But we do it so because the insurance company say, hey, get them delivered and get them out the door because of cost effectiveness. So that's a little unfair for the moms. But your question addresses what, if you really want my opinion, I say recovery would be 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
Sure.
I think for the mom to properly heal and emotional bonding is there 6 months. For men, I mean, I don't think dad needs to be there for 6 months. I think in the initial 30 days, I think that's adequate for them to be there. Somebody's got to make sure that mom is okay. So I think paternity leave is a good thing for fathers. But I think your question is, if I had my choice, I say 6 months. But be as it may, I know that there's a budgetary aspect of this as well. So I think 30 days at the very minimum is a reasonable thing to do. I know the military is going to 12 weeks. And myself being in the military, I deliver babies in the military. And I think it's a good move for the United States of America. Yeah.
For the military.
For the military. And, military has the challenges too. I mean, certainly you don't want to lose good people. And women have been entering the military very, very swiftly now, and they want to retain them. You don't want to lose a good worker just because they got pregnant. And certainly you don't want a woman having an abortion just because they got pregnant and can't take off. So those are the things that you have to take into consideration. But I think normal childbirth, I think 30 days is good. Complications can occur if you have a bad vaginal tear. I know men, you don't get the opportunity to experience that, but imagine you have a real bad hemorrhoid and they tear it. It's very, very painful. And it's not something you can recover just with 20 days. So those things you have to take into consideration. Cesarean section is also something to consider as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'm sorry, Senator, if you want to say some questions for
I just wanted to comment also on the 6 months. The law does provide that they can take up to 6 months, but it's a combination of leave. And actually, what my bill does too is it clarifies how that process is, what they have to exhaust first before the others. But Dr. Shane, you mentioned complications. What are the rates of complications in your practice on either this? Would you say it's high?
Well, for example, if you look at preterm birth, everybody think of pregnancy. Oh, you're going to give birth, and everything will be fine and dandy, and you're going to give birth at full term. But we fail to recognize that at least 10 to 15% of mothers deliver preterm. Preterm is giving birth before the 37 weeks. And often they'll give birth at 30 weeks. And the baby will end up in NICU, which is NICU, neonatal intensive care. And that can be very stressful for the parent and the entire family. So about 10 to 15% of those babies will be delivered preterm. And that's national rate, that's not just Guam. And I think Guam needs a little higher. There's also birth defects as well. That's come into consideration. I mean, you read in the newspaper of cardiac defect. The number one birth defect in the country is heart defect. 1 in 100 pregnancies. Well, nobody ever made a declaration and recognizing February as a heart defect for babies. We wonder if we should. It's a good thing to recognize because in Guam we do have a majority of parents, 1 in 100 in heart defects. So that's something good to recognize as well. And February is the month to do that. Cesarean section, for example, national rate between 25 to 30%, which is about our rate here on Guam. For every pregnancy that goes through, or every 10 pregnancy, you see about 3 women that will undergo cesarean section. And that recovery period takes a little longer, usually at least 2 weeks minimum to engage. And we talk about, I mentioned vaginal tears, I mentioned mobility is an issue for moms, and mom still have to recover at the same time take care of the baby. It's a balancing act. The least they have to worry about is, man, am I going to have a job when I finish with all of this? And that, if you can take away that stress level, I think it helps them recover much, much better. And then you don't have to worry about everything else. I think the workplace is a much better place to work. The other thing too is blood loss. you don't recognize this, but when women go through birth, it's a bloody experience. You lose a lot of blood. And just from that blood loss itself will make you fatigued, tired, anemic, and you can deliver a normal pregnancy, but when you go home, you become anemic. And just to recover from the anemia is a strenuous process. And I think that's something that all of us need to recognize.
Thank you, Dr. Shea.
Any other questions from any colleagues? Senator Richard.
I didn't mention twins. So there are twins on Guam as well. So I noticed that in the bill it says, if I read somewhere here, it says this is applied for only one pregnancy and one baby only. So there's no provision for twins, but twins do occur quite a bit. Last year there were 10 sets of twins, so that's quite a bit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Dr. Shea. This is, of course, a piece of legislation that I support and should be supported. But this only deals with public sector employees,
Yes.
right? So you're in the private sector. What's going on in the private sector, and how could we? I know it's going to be kind of tough to mandate private sector to look at mothers as mothers, not mothers of if you work in the government, Guam. When you're a mother, right? So what is
Absolutely.
your suggestion? What is the standard now in the private sector?
Well, the private sector itself, you regulate yourself. The government, has always been frowned upon in invading into the private sector and how they run their business. But certainly, so certain private sectors, for example, if they got a QC certificate, they undergo Guam supported, legitimate supported with finances, I think they should be held to the same standards. Anything that Gulf Guam has anything to do with supporting a certain business, etc., I think they should be held to the government Guam standards. So as far as those that's not, I think they should have a policy in place where they provide maternity leave. And depending on the business finances themselves, you certainly don't want them to go bankrupt. But I think business will recognize that providing adequate time for the moms to recover and get back to as healthy as possible, I think they'll find themselves in a better position and be more productive. And I think, again, that's a very challenging question that you've asked, and I certainly would take it one step at a time. But I think Gulf Guam has the power to ensure that, hey, if you're going to have some Gulf Guam incentives, certainly you should follow your rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Rodriguez. Thank you, Dr. Shea. You can go ahead and excuse yourself if you must go.
Yes.
Thank you.
I love to listen to Carla because she has how many kids, but I gotta go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.